Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Claudia Monacelli, your host for this podcast, Let's Talk Soul. Now, you've heard my episodes. There are so many different people who come on the show as guests and from all walks of life. Well, today we have another such speaker, J.H. Tepley. Jay, say hello to our audience.
Hello there. Really
Jay
excited for today.
she's an author, an entrepreneur, an international speaker, and spiritual mentor. Now, that's where I'm going to hone in on first. She describes herself as a lifelong geek and a dedicated researcher. She offers world-class personal evolution training for A players in marketing, coaching, and community building to help them fly high and achieve beyond what other people think possible. What do you mean, Jay, by A players in marketing?
All right. So, same like A players in community building and other disciplines, these are the people who have achieved a certain level of success where they have enough money, influence, impact. And so they are comfortable on the physical, on the mundane level.
Okay.
But what's interesting is when certain people, like certain souls, older
Yeah.
souls, when they reach that level, they suddenly realize that it's not what they really wanted in terms of they thought it would give them freedom,
Right.
but really they feel trapped. They feel like they're plateauing. They feel like they're stuck.
Uh-huh.
And many people actually get very even depressed, get in a dark place because of that.
Right.
And so what I've discovered is that people, especially older souls, especially high
Now
achievers,
you
because
said
older
it
souls
twice, Jay. You said it twice.
Yes.
Older souls. What are we talking? What age are we talking about? And be careful.
Well, there is a rough definition of older souls as those beings that had quite a few incarnations rather
Okay.
than new, fresh, just learning ones, because we are not just a physical body. We are a soul that has a physical body.
Right.
And so we change them as we go through our evolution.
Hold
And
on.
of course,
Hold
the more
on.
lessons we have,
Okay, so now we're in the realm of spirituality, soul lives, past lives. Now, I want to step back a moment and continue introducing you because over the last 20 years, her new era superhero program showed mainly men across the globe the path to increased revenue, success, impact, and personal fulfillment through helping them connect with their soul purpose. And she does a lot of charity work, supporting mental health. And she was also featured in The Guardian, The Jerry Vine Show, and BBC One. Now, first question, we'll come back to past lives and souls. Why men?
because the way my system is structured is A, uniquely designed to empower men, and B, I believe that there is not enough being done in our society right now to help men, especially young men who are trying to find their footing, it's trying to find themselves, their meaning, what they're here for. And so this is what I want to do to help them.
Mm-hmm. Does it ever happen that women come to you?
It did happen a couple of times, but this is not the right system for them. And so I always say, because I respect people's differences, and I
Right.
think we all should strive to find not just a one size fits all, but something that is uniquely right for you. It's like with food, some food can be really good, but if it disagrees with your body, your stomach,
Right.
then you should avoid it. And you should find something that would really be nourishing and nutritious specifically for you and
Okay.
support your body type, your needs. Same with the mind.
Okay, so let's go back and mention what is it in your program that is just not fit for women? Give me an example.
Of course. So obviously, as you know, there are two forces in the universe, the magnetic and the electric, which in our mundane reality are translated into the feminine and the masculine. And so the main difference between the feminine and the masculine principle is not even sexuality, but life dynamic. And so there is a very different way that the feminine and the masculine approaches their purpose and goes through life. And in my program, I focus on empowering men on their journey. So it's a much more structured approach, and we do with some very scary things in terms of inner demons and facing shadows in a way that is more comfortable for the male mod to deal with. Although some of my students said that it was pretty brutal, even though they enjoyed it, they said it was the best training ever. But I do realize it's a little bit like the special forces training for the
Okay.
mind, what I do.
Okay. As I was listening to you, I was thinking of archetypal work. Is there, like the hero, those things that are more geared toward men, the archetype of a man, the hero, the warrior, and it sounds like you're catering to that image, to that universal vision. Um, Now, we just briefly touched on the surface of past lives when you started talking about the young soul, all right, a young person. Um, I have to agree with you about the difference between the young and the old. Okay, but just as a sideline, I have found the oldest souls that have come to me as clients just in the past 6 months. Prior to that, they were much younger, much, much, much younger. I'm talking uh, 42,000 lives now, and as opposed to the 20 lives, 65 lives, 10, 16, 6 lives. What is your experience with past lives and past life, I don't know, regression linked to the soul's purpose?
Right. So, my personal experience, my background is very heavily rooted in my past life experiences. And this is why when people even ask me, like, oh, but where are you from? Or where did you go to school? I rarely talk about it up front because I think it's pretty relevant because my personality is mostly grounded in the past life experiences. And so I am basically, as a person, the sum total of many lives and many incarnations. And things that I resonate with the most are my lives in the Far East, for example, in
Hmm.
Japan, in China.
Just a moment, Jay. Do you know your soul's group of origin? Did you have anyone ever tell you that? Where it originated and what soul group? That's
I
something you
didn't
should.
actually look
Go
into
ahead.
that.
Go ahead. Tell us.
I didn't look into that. Different people had different ideas as
Mm-hmm.
to where I may be coming from,
Mm-hmm.
depending on the person. But
Mm-hmm.
I mostly focus on the lessons that I derive from the experiences that I go through. And I
Mm-hmm.
had quite a few.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So you've gone through all of those past lives, and those experiences have brought you to work with men. Have you
Yes,
incarnated as men in your past lives?
almost all of them.
Almost all of them. Okay. Um, there's a difficult. How can I put it? Well, let me go to your book to help me out. You published a book. You call it your flagship book. So that means you have other books, right?
Yes, about nine, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken.
And the Light Watch Chronicles.
Yes.
When was that published?
About 6 years ago.
Okay, and why do you call it your flagship book?
Because I found that that's a really easy and accessible entry point to all these realms for someone who has not been awakened yet, for someone who hasn't really tapped into this kind of
Uh-huh.
level of reality. And so this book is a story.
Hmm.
But in the story, as the reader goes through the adventure with the characters, he gets to understand himself on a deeper level,
Yeah.
understand things about purpose, about energy, about auras, about all these different levels of existence that we will live in. And because it's a story, it's a much easier way for the mind to explore and expand on those concepts. And some people actually say that it's similar to The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho in that regard, because you don't just read some fantasy book, you actually read and learn at the same time, and it gives you things to think about and to explore yourself.
Mhm. Yeah. Um, okay. I'm in real time here. I have your book in the on the Amazon um, site, and I'm looking through it. They give you a peek inside. And so I'm scrolling down. Everyone's giving you a speaker, everybody's writing about your book, and I haven't got down to, okay, about the author, and it talks about you. Then let's see. It shows me the website, the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all of your social media. The publisher is, I don't have that here. The publisher,
Aria Verbum.
sorry?
Aria Verbum. This version of this book is self-published.
Okay. Now, I'm looking at, all right, then you have other books here. This Light Watch Chronicles are 3 books. This is 1, 2, and 3. The book 1 is The Guardians. The second book is The Journey, and the third is The Awakening. So what it says upcoming, but I'm looking at
Yes.
it. I could actually um, order it if I wanted to. Um,
Yeah, I published the book 2 recently as well. So
okay,
people
because
can
that
enjoy
didn't
the
come up
journey.
yet. That didn't come up yet. I have Filament Publishing here. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is on in the shops. You can purchase it now. It would be interesting to know a little bit more. It says here, a time will come when people will forget. Many will lose the memory of all that made them strong, their light within, integrity, loyalty, and honor. Okay. Now, it reads as if it were fiction. Okay. Sort
Yes.
of science fiction. Is it? Or is this nonfiction?
Well, technically, it is fiction. It's a epic space saga, if
Hmm.
we're talking about the genre. But as I said, in this book, you will find a lot of things about our world,
Uh
about
huh.
how our minds, our souls, and our spirits work
Hmm.
and interact. And it starts in Tokyo, where I used to live.
Uh
I
huh.
absolutely love Tokyo.
Hmm.
So I described it in a lot of detail, and people actually say they feel transported as they read. So it's a
Hmm.
very immersive experience.
Mm. And there's a paragraph here that says there's a secret message in this book, an
Yes.
answer to important questions you may have been blindly seeking until now. And I imagine this has to do with your soul's purpose.
Exactly.
Do you feel ready to address that question about your soul's purpose? Because that's a big question that I get all the time. What is my soul's people? People want me to tell them what their soul's purpose is. Can you talk about that a
Likewise.
bit? Mhm.
Likewise, yes, I do get students who ask me the same question: what is my sole purpose? And I've discovered the thing that is actually explained and described in the Lightwash book, that it doesn't really help if you tell them, because they
Oh
have to
no,
discover
no, I
for
know.
themselves.
Yeah.
Yes, they have to find that secret key, that secret message within their own heart. And so in my work, I bring them to the point where they can see it for themselves.
How long does it take usually?
It depends, but usually about a year.
A year. That's what I find as well. But it's a long. It seems like it is a year chronically, but it seems like forever to them because there's so many experiences they go through.
Yes.
They're slaying dragons after dragons after dragons.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
very much so.
Now, out of all of the things that you have done, what do you like to do the most?
I actually like to run trainings in person. This is what I enjoy the most,
What do you
because
mean by that? Run trainees. Training.
trainings,
Trainings. Okay.
trainings, yeah, boot camps.
Mm-hmm.
Because so the way I work with people consists of two parts. And first, we begin on Zoom, because pretty much everyone I work with right now, anyway, abroad, all around the world.
Yeah.
So it would not be even possible to meet them in
Mm-hmm.
person, not easily.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first part of our journey together
Mm-hmm.
is about learning things, learning to see the world with the new eyes, learning about yourself, about how your mind works, about how
Mm-hmm.
your soul wants and what your soul wants and needs. And so, what I often explain it to people is, imagine learning to drive. And so you have two parts to it. Obviously, you
Uh-huh.
have the theoretical part where you have
Yeah.
to learn,
Mm-hmm.
about cars and driving in general and the rules. And then after that, you go with an instructor and
Mm-hmm.
actually get your hands on the wheel and explore what driving actually feels
Yeah, of
like. And
course.
so my training is very much like that. So we start from the theoretical part where,
Yeah.
as I said, the students discovers more about energy and souls and how it all works, and
Yeah.
how to really see himself through the new eyes, from a new
Uh-huh.
perspective, as a more empowered, not just human, but a divine being. And
Yeah.
so after that, after they had a fair understanding of how things work, we now go together somewhere to a very special magical place. And the places I usually go to are places like Japan, Iceland, Costa Rica, actually Italy as well,
Mm-hmm.
some very magical places around the world. And the way I choose them is depends on that person's unique energy and unique goal they want to achieve. So because places change us, I find places that are really conducive, that are really supportive for that
Mm-hmm.
person's energy to evolve as much as possible. And this is how we can have an amazing, incredible breakthrough in just 2 weeks, because that's around how long it takes.
Sure.
So we go for about 2 weeks to somewhere magical, train together. It's a bit like a Shaolin training with a master
Yeah.
and a student,
Uh-huh.
and a great adventure.
Uh-huh. I'm going to I'm sliding you right into another topic, which is the same topic, but you do
Sure.
mention in your notes to me um, that. All right, let's talk about aligning with your soul's purpose through stories.
Okay.
And give me an example. Give me, describe to me how it was for one of your clients.
All right. So what it was is, one of my students came across the Lightwash actually, and he bought it. He found it incredibly insightful and one of my students actually said that it was almost uncanny, almost eerie, because one of the characters mirrored the events in his own life.
Uh-huh.
And he said it came to the point where he was thinking about something, or he had some problem to solve, or some question, some decision to make.
Yeah.
And then just after that, a few pages later, he saw the character doing the exact same thing.
Ah, interesting. So, how could, without your book, let's say we don't have your book, you have a client and they have not seen your book, how can they align through their own stories? Or, I'm missing something. I'm missing the link here between the stories and the soul purpose.
Okay, so our story or self story is incredibly important for us to be able to live our soul purpose, because one of the main reasons, not the entire reason, but one of the main reasons why most people never align with their soul purpose, actually, even though they try,
Hmm.
is because they have the wrong story in their head. And that wrong story is like the wrong operation system that hinders them in their efforts. And so each of us, as we go through life, has a story, a vision of ourselves. We have an idea of what we are like, what we do, what kind of strengths and weaknesses we have, who we are as a person in general. And so that story actually runs our life. Because in the simplest terms, if someone says to himself or herself, oh, you know what, I'm no good at XYZ, then of course, for as long as they believe that, that becomes their truth.
Hmm.
And likewise, some people believe that they have no luck with something. So, some people
Yeah.
can say, oh, I have no luck when it comes to partners or
Yeah.
money or friends or anything else. And so,
Uh-huh.
of course, for as long as that story exists in their mind and nobody helps them to change it,
Uh-huh.
their life will reflect that story, because our mind creates our reality. So
Yeah.
if we believe something strongly, it comes to be. And so, of course, people come to me with all sorts of stories. And one of my students actually said that his original story was a pretty sad one, because he was convinced, a super good looking guy,
Yeah.
incredibly good looking and
Hmm.
intelligent guy. He was convinced that he was unattractive, that no girl would ever like him, ever. And he was destined for the life of solitude, because this is what his story was in his head. And I helped him to understand that it was purely in
Yeah.
his head, and that he could rewrite that story at any time. But there are obviously certain, I would say, certain rules or certain
Yeah.
directions to keep in mind while designing your new story.
Yeah.
And this is
Yeah.
part of what I help those people to do.
I see. I see. Okay. Um, I hate even to ask more, but I do want to
Go
know.
ahead.
Give me an idea of a man or a woman, a man who has a mistaken story, but then they come into their true story. I mean, a real life example. For example, this man. But apart from, you just gave us an idea of a man who thought he was terribly ugly or unpleasant. But give us another example so the people, our audience, can sort of step into those shoes and maybe experience the same things you know they're listening to.
Oh, absolutely. So another one of my students had an idea that he strongly believed in, that he was not able to break a financial ceiling in his life, in
Uh-huh.
terms of, he came from a background that wasn't particularly wealthy, actually
Yeah.
quite a modest background,
Hmm.
lived in a small place in the UK. And of course, people in his area all had a fairly low income, and that's all he had ever seen. And so
Hmm.
he assumed in his mind that him being like those people would of course mean that that's how his life is going to unfold. But of
Yeah.
course he wasn't happy about it, because, well, if you don't have the freedom to to travel, to build your business, then of course you can't really reach all the people that you want to reach. You can't have the impact that you want to have. So
Right.
in our world, I mean, in our tribe,
Right.
money is not the thing to aim for the money's sake, but it's something that allows you to serve the world greater.
Okay.
It
So
allows you to
if I
reach
could
and help more people.
interrupt you just for a moment, from this story and the last story, it sounds to me what emerges is whatever your story is, and the beginning story and the ending story, the common element that aligns with a soul's purpose is how you extend what it is you do to others to help others. Is this correct?
Of course.
Okay. Okay.
Of course,
So,
because we are all interconnected. So
uh-huh.
we're here to share our gift and our light with others and
Uh-huh.
guide them and support them. So
Mhm.
the stronger you are yourself, the more you're aligned with your soul purpose, the more you are grounded in your truth, the more you can elevate others and inspire them to do the same. So just to finish the story, so that
Right.
guy growing
Sure.
up in a very humble neighborhood,
Mhm.
he was a talented entrepreneur, but every time that he would come to the point where he could really make it,
Mhm.
he sabotaged himself because his story was, I can never achieve this level or anything beyond that.
Yeah.
And so once I help him understand his story and I help him rewrite it, he actually has become a millionaire since,
Mhm.
and is happily living his new life.
Interesting. Good. Now that's a success story if I've ever heard one. Oh, thank you so much, Jay, for sharing this. It's an uncommon take on the work that people do usually in coaching, because I've had out of I have to admit that of all of the people who come on and talk to me about coaching and being a life coach, a soul coach, any way you want to look at it, whether it's for business or confidence, it's 80% towards women. And when it's geared toward men, it's geared toward improving their economic value, not spiritual
Right.
value. Or if it
Mm.
is, and it does include and spiritual development, it's that you know, the percentage is very low. I appreciate that. Well, I'll be looking for the new book then, Jay.
Thank you, thank you. But yes, what you said is very true, and this
Hmm.
is exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing, because there is a big need and a big lack of this kind of help, I feel. And so I wanted to step in and share what I know and my tools and
Good
my
for you.
techniques with
Good.
those who need them.
Good. I hope to have you back. Bye bye, Jay.
I would love. Bye bye. Bye. Thank you for having